Uh, we've gone really long, so I'm gonna try and breeze through
All
the
right,
rest of this.
I'm good with that.
Um, World Trios title, Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta versus Private Party and Commander. The story here was, well, first of all, Castagnoli has switched up his music again, and now instead of the 1812 overture, da 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 da,
Uh,
now it's a very menacing version of the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, and it's
oh,
again excellent, very foreboding, wonderful. Kudos. Um,
amazing.
Initially, it looked like Yuta wasn't going to come out, and he waited for his partners to be in the ring, but he made his entrance from the babyface tunnel. Yeah, he wasn't going to come out, and then he came out through the babyface tunnel,
Oh,
and so like he was just mostly on the apron throughout like 70% of the match, and not wanting to tag in, and not wanting to really participate because he's not really down with the whole murdering
murdering.
attempted murder of his wrestle dad.
You're right.
Um,
Wrestle that. Uh,
uh, I mean that's what he is. He's his wrestle dad. Like they're
yeah,
all his wrestle dads, but like
yeah.
that was the one he loved the most.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair.
uh, but yeah, so he got forced tagged in. Um, Not Jedi way, like he was forced in with a tag, and he Claudio forced it, but like it looked like he wasn't really going to be active in the match until he was rolled up by Isaiah Cassidy for a close 2 count, and then he kind of went into um like muscle memory mode, and
Mhm.
he just kind of fought off what he could, what he needed to, and then Isaiah Cassidy did something stupid, and he failed to read the room, because if he had read the room, he probably could have picked up a win by taking advantage of Wheeler's apathy. Instead, what he decided to do was slap Wheeler Yuta in the face.
Oh no.
And that was a bad idea. Yuta went beast mode and just beat the crap out of him, and eventually locked in the cattle mutilation and got the submission. But he wouldn't let go. He went like you know, he saw red and everything. And Pac is holding the referee back, which I thought was a nice touch, so that he
Mhm.
couldn't let go. And meanwhile, they're like grinning evilly at the, very proud of their wrestle son. And eventually Wheeler comes to his senses, and like they go to raise his hand. He's like, no, no, I don't want anything to do with you. Get out of here. So I feel I'm very invested in the Wheeler Yuta story right now.
Yeah.
I thought his character work at All Out was incredible. Absolutely sold me on his despair and his concern.
Mhm.
I'm really liking the depression thing that he's got going on, because he's seeing essentially his family falling apart before his eyes, because they all want to commit federal crimes against each other, and he doesn't know who to side with. I really, and I think that a lot of people just assumed that he would be lumped in with Danielson, but I
Mhm.
like the way that they're drawing this out by planting that seed of doubt, where he has that rage button, that Hulk out mode that he hits, that can be taken advantage of by
Yeah.
Claudio and Pac and Moxley. Um, to make the waters kind of murkier. It's like, is he really going to go side with Danielson or not? I like the uncertainty. I
Yeah.
like it. Um, Ultimately, I do like the idea that somebody on Twitter put forth and basically make it Moxley, Claudio, and Pac versus uh, uh, Danielson, uh, Yuta, and Garcia, Daniel Garcia,
Oh,
as the Sons of the Dragon. Loved
okay.
that name.
I do love
Love.
that name.
I dig it. I really. I'm worried though, because usually Mox doesn't lose. And I'm not really invested in seeing him be the one to retire Bryan Danielson
No.
and pick up a fourth world title.
Yeah.
And so, like, I hope that's kind of the beauty of it, of the double edged sword of it. Is like any match that Danielson has could conceivably be his last, especially when you're putting him up against opponents like Moxley, who have a realistic shot at beating him.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if we're going to get that far before Mox wins. And honestly, if Danielson's going to go out on his sword and drop the title, I from a storyline perspective, I know it makes sense that it would be Mox, but I think it would be better served for him to put somebody new over,
Yeah.
specifically Darby Allin. I would
Yeah.
very much like to see Darby be the one to get, like, because the fans are behind him.
Yeah.
Like, I in a way that's very Jeff Hardy esque. Um, I think he's probably behind only Danielson himself and Will Ospreay in terms of fan support. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think even Swerve has the kind of support that Darby has,
No. No question.
honestly. Um, I think that would be a real, if you're gonna have him retire, have him make somebody. Mox doesn't need to be made. He's a made
No.
man. Have him make somebody on the way out.
Yeah.
But I worry because of how much Tony Khan values Jon Moxley, and he does clearly value Jon Moxley
Yeah.
above nearly anybody else on that roster.
A little too much, I'd
Um,
say.
uh, I would argue too much. I
Yeah.
wouldn't argue. I would argue not by like a lot, but like it's too much.
Yeah.
Um, but like I don't want it. I want the match, but I want Danielson to go over. That's what I
Yeah.
want.
Well, maybe here's where
And I
Tony
want the Sons
pivots.
of the Dragon because that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
do too. That
It's
is
awesome.
awesome.
Carry on that legacy because
Yeah.
I'm a big, as you know, I'm a big fan of Danny Garcia. I
Yeah.
want him to re-sign. I want to give him and Yuta a run with the tag belts eventually.
Yeah.
Not immediately, but like eventually. Yeah, I want them to, like, once Danielson is good and retired from this run, I want them to, like, then to win the belt subsequently to carry on the legacy of the American Dragon.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool and really fitting.
Yeah.
The Outrunners, we're at their promo now. They are, it's one of those cheesy, it's not even 80s really. The style is like late 70s, like fantastic stuff. Like, the really, really bad production quality and the bad music in the background. They're at Coney Island on the boardwalk and they're cheating at carnival games. It's amazing. I love it so much. I love them so much.
Yeah.
This segment ruled. And
Yeah,
if
they're
you don't
amazing.
like that, I don't know what to tell you. You may just not like fun. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Fun
it's
might
really
not be
fun.
for you guys. Sorry.
Right. They're fun, man. That's what I like most about them. They're just a
Heck
fun
yeah.
tag team, man.
I mean, when you get those kind of send up acts, there's always this chance that you're going to wind up being seen as making fun of it instead of being an homage to it.
Yeah.
And they are very clearly an homage,
Yeah. They
and
ride that line
it's
really well.
very loving.
Yeah.
You can
You
see
can
it in
tell they love the
everything they
shit
do.
they're talking about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Next match was the Hispanic / Latinx History Month 3-way with hologram Dralistico, the returning Dralistico, and the Beast Mortos. We haven't seen Dralistico in a long, long time, and he
No.
came back with
No.
some sick gear too. He had a cape with like dragon's wings on it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
This was fun lucha stuff.
Beast Mortos is my favorite new guy.
I
I
love
love
Beast
him.
Mortos.
He's so
Frank
good.
Mortos, attorney at Raw.
Yeah,
Love that
I
guy.
need all of that. I need way more
Give it
of
to
that.
me. I want it.
Yeah.
Beast Mortos. He looked. All of them look good. Honestly, like, I really wish Hologram had an actual finish though. I'm getting really tired of him seeing roll people with a straw cradle.
Yeah.
It's like if you're such a big high flyer and stuff, shouldn't you have like a high flying impact finish? Like, can
Like he
you
could even
if
just
you
go back to using his old Atlas finish, and it'd be better than this, man. Like,
yeah, I wasn't really aware of his work before hologram, so
yeah.
I'm in the dark about what he used to finish.
He
But
was
like,
Atlas. I'm pretty sure he was in Lucha Underground. Basically, it's the
yeah,
same character, just with a different name.
I have to count. I that's like
Even the same
Lucha
mask, I'm
Underground is
pretty
on my
sure.
list. It's like, oh, really should watch that at some
It's
point.
it's worth a watch at least once. You know,
I
it's
do. I've seen like a couple of random episodes out of order.
yeah.
Um,
You'll
it does
definitely
seem
get to
kind of up
see
my
where
alley. It seems very over the top.
WWE when it does its cinema stuff, like the cinematic type stuff, they
Mhm.
borrow a lot from Lucha Underground's like
Yeah,
Robert Rodriguez type stuff that they were doing. I mean, it was him. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
it's worth at least at least one watch through all three seasons. It's worth it. I mean, some really great wrestling from like Penta and Ray
yeah.
Phoenix and Brian
That's where Jeff
Cage,
Cobb
Jeff
got his
Cobb.
breakthrough.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb came from there. Um, there's a few other guys that are just. I mean, Ty is in there looking completely
Yeah,
different. I when she initially came to AEW, I didn't recognize her from
yeah.
Lucha Underground until I realized later that it was the same person. And I was like,
Do you
oh
think
god.
that's where is that where he where Johnny met her?
I think they did meet there because he was there
Yeah,
too, and they worked together.
Johnny Mundo,
Yeah, Johnny
right? Yeah,
Mundo. Yeah,
yeah,
and he fantastic. Some of his best work, man. And
yeah,
he's not somebody who lacks in um, having a good body of work. So,
yeah.
and that's still some of his best work.
He's
Is
another guy like in the vein of a Shelton Benjamin we were talking
yeah,
about earlier. Like kind of really like how do you not utilize that guy?
right,
Like how do
exactly.
you not use him to his potential? He had such a high ceiling. Like
Yeah.
oh,
It makes me wonder if there's like some kind of like underlying attitude problem or something, which I don't think there would
yeah,
be, but you never know. I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
So, but I mean, I don't understand why companies don't. Yeah, Lucha Underground definitely used him to his potential,
it's
and
fantastic. Good for them.
yeah, it's good.
So yeah, this match gets a thumbs up from me.
It's
As
a good
long
one.
I'm a big fan of Lucha Libre, as long as they lay off all those stupid arm drags. Like I don't want to see 5 minutes of different arm
No,
drags.
I don't
Sorry,
either.
guys.
So
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
But this was great. Um, in true hologram fashion, he used the Simon Miller approved most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. Surprise roll up for the
Surprise
victory.
roll up.
Um, shout out to Simon Miller. We love you
Yeah,
here.
we love Simon
Love
Miller
you.
here. Golden up for
Yeah.
Simon.
Golden up for Simon. Always platinum up
Always.
for Simon.
Platinum up for
Platinum.
Simon.
Platinum
Yes,
up.
there we go. Okay.
Um, uh, afterwards, Dralistico and Mortos kind of get in a shoving match because towards the end of the match, they were kind of on the same page and trying to just get rid of hologram. But then Roosh came out. Roosh, El
Ugh.
Toro Branco. Finally, like it looked like he was for a while there. It looked like he was heading to Don Callis' family, but it looks like those plans have changed because he teamed up with Dralistico, his brother Dralistico, and the Beast Mortos to beat the crap out of Hologram.
Oh, man.
And I think we're getting La Facción Ingobernable version like 3 or something like that. And you know what? I'm fine with it because Roosh was at his best there, and the Beast Mortos gets more TV time.
Let's bring back Jose the Assassin to play a face against them.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I'd
Yeah,
totally be into
rehire him.
that. He's a
That's
good
fine.
he's a good Twitter follow. If you don't follow him, Jose the Assassin is
I
a
think
funny
I
Twitter follow. He
don't.
interacts a lot too. So like you talk to
Yeah,
him, he'll talk back to you. Because I asked him one time, I was like, "How do I get to go work as a referee in Mexico?" And he like DM'd me and told me how. So
that's
I mean,
dope.
yeah, like he's really a cool dude.
That's really cool.
Yeah, man, like he's really nice. Like
I
because
remember the first time that he took his shirt off, and I'm like, dude, that guy's jacked.
yeah, he is. He's scary,
He's
Jack.
jacked. Like, because he wore the assistant stuff. Like, he was, just like in a white shirt and tie and everything like that.
Yeah,
You didn't think anything of it, totally unassuming. And then he took his shirt off that one time. I'm like, dude, why isn't he in the ring? Clearly, he
right.
belongs there. Like, but
Yeah.
but yeah, if they can get this right, this like third time around, with La Facción Ingobernable, I'm okay with it. I love Roosh. He has kind of a reputation of being a little snug in there, but like I love that everything looks believable with him. I love his intensity.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he's got great hair.
He does have great hair.
Uh, he 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 looks really good in a suit, which for this gimmick being like essentially like assassins, like it really
Yeah.
works for them. It really works. Like some people can't wear a suit. Like
No.
CM Punk, for example, has gone on record saying like, what was the one thing that it was that contract signing with
Yeah.
McMahon. It's like
Oh yeah.
here looking here I am in a suit looking as ridiculous as you look in a suit. like,
Right.
but yeah, like I'm a big fan of putting the Beast Mortos on my TV and getting him wins.
Yeah. Need
That's the
more
thing he's
wins.
missing. Like he's missing wins. Like because he's too talented to not. So I'm all for that. And if you haven't checked out the Hey EW episode this week, it's the Beast Mortos in the chair, and it's wonderful, and everybody should check it out. Backstage
Yeah.
interview after that with Chris Statlander, surprisingly without Stokely Hathaway. She's just by herself. She just basically said she basically just kind of wrote herself off TV. I think that's what they're doing. It's like, well, I'm patient. I'm gonna pick my spot, which means that since both champions are heels, like she's not gonna go
Yeah.
after them. So
Right.
like, I mean, she may insert herself into the Willow thing, simply because it's her. It's like
Yeah.
I beat you in the street fight, which was great, by the way.
Yeah. That was a
Street
great
fight
street
was
fight.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, I beat you in this. How come you're getting in line in front of me? I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but that's what she said. And then it was time for a fashion show. And MXM, pardon me, MXM Collection comes to the ring, and they're in front of what's very clearly a person under a sheet, and that they're going to unveil. But before that, they come out and they say that, it's the end of Fashion Week in New York City, and they've got their male models that are come out, and each one of them is as beautiful as we are. And it turns out each one of them is as beautiful as they are because they've got Mansoor or uh, Mason Madden's face as a sign in front of their face as they walk down. They make some funny puns. The last guy's particular I like. He's like, and this is Jeff from Queens. The union made us include him. Like just class, like just really funny stuff. And then eventually they unveil the guy underneath. He's like some German guy. I can't remember the name. They gave him Hans or something. We'll call him Hans. And he's like, oh, we found him in Frankfurt or wherever. And he's big jack dude with Mansoor's face in front of him, and so he's flexing and posing, and they're overcome with how like vascular he is and everything. Really riding the line. And it's like we don't usually do this, but we're so impressed by you. Would you like to touch tips and sit with us? So Mansoor and Mason touch tips and invite Hans or whatever to do that. And he goes over and then he grabs both of their fingers and he takes off the mask and you see that it's Billy Gunn, which was a genuine surprise. I didn't see that for some reason. I may have been super tired or whatever. Usually I can see this kind of stuff coming. I literally didn't think that it was Billy Gunn. I just thought it was some guy, but it was Billy Gunn. And so it genuinely surprised me, which is great. I like being genuinely surprised. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I love being
Um,
surprised.
but they he gets a one up on them initially, but the rest of the male models come in and they all beat him down until the Acclaim come out and run them off. The jacket, I've got to say, was an improvement. It had a big heart shaped hole cut out, like Superman's symbol, like right over here on the chest. The sleeves were replaced with like I don't know what the sleeves were made of, but they were like transparent. Maybe they were made of tulle or something like that. Like, but they were big and puffy, like a pirate shirt. And on the back it said best dressed wrestler instead of
Best wrestler alive.
alive, yeah, or best dressed alive or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Ultimately, it was an improvement, you know, because let's
Fair.
be real here, Caster's fine. He's not the best wrestler alive.
No,
He's not
not
even
by
in
a
the
long shot.
conversation. Not even in the conversation. Not when are in the company with with Brian Danielson and Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe and
Mm,
MJF and Will freaking Osprey.
right.
Like you are not, you weren't even in the top 20 in that company, let alone the world.
Right.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Also, quick aside, why is Max Caster a heel on social media but a face on AEW TV?
I don't know.
Why? It's so confusing.
He's such a jerk on Twitter.
He is. He really is. Match 7 was my main event. Hangman Adam Page versus Jeff Jarrett in a lumberjack match. And let me tell you, folks, most of you who are probably listening to this already know this because this is our very first episode, and chances are pretty good most of our listeners are going to be people that I know for the first episode anyway. But it bears repeating, it was not for Jeff Jarrett that I was looking forward to this match. Big Adam Page guy. So, um, Lumberjacks were the Bangman Gang, the Dark Order, and Satnam Singh and Jay Lethal. And they each had leather straps, but they could only use them on them if they made it to the floor. So they couldn't whip anybody if they were just on the apron. They made that super clear for some unknown reason because it didn't really. I mean, it seems kind of arbitrary, but okay, whatever. The
Whatever.
match was fine. I mean, it's Jeff Jarrett. But
Yeah.
my friend George, who I brought up earlier, also had a very succinct evaluation of Jeff Jarrett as a wrestler. He's the world's most okayest wrestler.
Yeah.
Like he's not a bad wrestler. He's not, but he's not great. Like he's fine. He's average.
Yeah.
He is
He's
the
a good
most
hand.
okayest wrestler.
Yeah.
What he does works, but what he does is basic.
Yeah.
It's nothing flashy. It's the only reason that he's a baby face right now is because he was friends with Owen Hart.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, that promo that he cut, it affected me too. Like I'm not a heartless monster, okay, but
Yeah.
like to me, Jeff Jarrett's always going to be the guy that booked himself into you know the NWA title like three or four times in TNA's
Yeah.
early days. He's always going to be the guy that was a world champion for no other reason than he was a guy that was there and was loyal. Like he wasn't particularly special. He and furthermore, he was another guy who tried to get was a clout vampire off the Effie. Like, oh, here I'm going
Yeah.
to come in GCW and we're going to have a series of matches and I'll go over the first time, but you'll get your shine back, kid. No, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. He came in, he got his win, he got his clout from Effie, and then he went to AEW. He's a clout vampire. He is
That's fair.
like it's. I'm not. My friend Ben has made it a meme to get under my skin that he really loves Jeff Jarrett now. Love you, Ben. You are wrong. You are entitled to your incorrect opinion.
Fair.
But yeah, Hangman, like Hangman is such a weird position right now because he's technically a heel,
Yeah.
but he's going up against the world. Like heels versus the world doesn't usually work
No.
because the world gangs up on you. And that's a heel thing to do. The gang up is the heel thing. Like,
Yeah.
why are you, it doesn't make sense. So, except, I mean, and I would say that, I mean, hashtag Hangman did nothing wrong. So he's not a
Yeah.
heel to me. He
Yeah.
may be coming out of the heel tunnel now, but he's not a heel to me. He did
No,
what he
no.
needed to do.
Right.
Sorry, Swerve, not sorry, Swerve. Sorry about your house, but you
Yeah.
deserved it. You deserved it. Uh, It's like maybe don't endanger a man's family. Like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know. Like
yeah. Maybe
if
shit
the
like that won't
law isn't going to
happen.
step in and you're going to get away with all this stuff because you got a whole bunch of cronies to do your dirty work for you because you can't beat the man yourself, don't be surprised when the man takes drastic action to exact some measure of justice.
Yeah, that
End
was
rant.
all just yeah.
End rant.
I agree.
Um, yeah. Anyway, Paige spent a lot of time avoiding the lumberjacks since he has no friends anymore. So literally everybody was out to get him. At one point, Paige managed to swipe one of the straps from one of the lumberjacks and whip Jarrett with it. And then Karen Jarrett came in and really acted like her namesake and tried to speak to the manager about things. She threw her body in front of her husband, and Paige is like, I don't want to do this, but then he turns to the ref and is like, look, you get her out of the way, or I'm gonna do this. Like, I don't want to do this, but I will because he deserves it, not because she deserves it.
Right.
Uh, but he got his comeuppance, I guess, if you want to call it that, when he finally got thrown to the outside and literally every single lumberjack took a turn whipping him.
Oh.
Um, Even Karen, when she got back in the ring, was able to get several lashes in. Um, but as she was being escorted out of the ring by Aubrey Edwards, uh, Page hit a low blow because he was forced to. He was forced to take drastic measures because the entire world was against him. He did what he needed to do.
Okay.
Beat Jeff Jarrett with my favorite move, the Deadeye. So uh, it was good stuff. It was good stuff. It wasn't like groundbreaking or anything, but it was fun, and it given the stipulation, it allowed Jeff to not have to do much, which is good because usually he does nothing for a longer period of time. So this allowed him to stick to his strengths. Afterwards, Page and Robinson got into it a bit with Page throwing Juice over the top rope and attempting to hang him with the leather strap. Um, I don't know, Juice. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like the guy is literally called Hangman, so maybe don't give him something to hang you with. I don't know. I feel like that's on you for not doing your research. Maybe you
Yeah.
spent too much time getting into the lumberjack gimmick, which I appreciate because nobody else dressed like a lumberjack. But
Of
like
course
maybe
you
that
did.
time could have been better spent researching what a hangman is
Right.
and acting accordingly. And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
That's not all I'll say about that. It's leading to a match next week for the fifth anniversary Dynamite show. I think that that's their way of putting him into a feud with the returning Jay White, which is fine. Give them something to do. They've got Bullet Club history together. It makes sense. It's good. It's fine. Gives Jay White something to do. It you know keeps Hangman in the spotlight without having to immediately kind of force a title push. So yeah, it's fine. Match number 8. Oh, and I gotta say, like this card was super weirdly edited. Like there were 8 matches in 2 hours, and there were like several points at which there was like a black screen and it said like something like collision segment 2 or whatever on the screen. Super weird.
Oh
Like
man.
I don't like. Hopefully, with this $170 million a year deal, you can up your production, Tony, because this was weird
Yeah.
and it was
You need to pay
jarring.
a new guy.
Yeah, I loved what you do, but like you got the money now. Like
Yeah.
maybe invest. Uh, Kazuchika Okada versus Sammy Guevara in a Continental title eliminator match. I hate the concept of an eliminator match.
Yeah, I don't really like
I
him.
hate it. It's like just defend the title because you know what? 99% of the time, the champion wins anyway. So why don't you just
Yeah.
put the title on the line?
Right.
Like What's
Yeah,
this
I don't like
eliminator
that
crap
stuff.
for? If you were gonna, it would be one thing if the eliminator match was a concept that more occasionally allowed the challengers to win, but there's
Yeah,
only been one instance of that. That was the Acclaim not too long ago. That was like the first time a challenger actually beat the champs to earn that match. And it's
yeah,
like, and then they didn't even win the belts. So,
right. They say they're having an eliminator match, and I'm like, oh great, the person who's gonna try to get their title shot is gonna lose here, and then we're not gonna see him in the title picture for a while, even if it's somebody that I want to see in the title picture.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, it's almost too predictable at this point for that.
Yeah. Guevara kept trying to speed things up and take Okada off his feet, and Okada went the opposite way. Basic psychology, but it works. They made sure on commentary to point out that Okada, because he was in the heavyweight division in IWGP so long and in New Japan for so long, and they do kind of separate the heavies from the junior heavies, that he historically has had a little bit of trouble keeping up with the juniors
Mm-hmm.
because he just doesn't come across those styles as often,
Yeah,
which I thought was an interesting tidbit and a nice bit of commentary. Um, Okada gets a win with the Rainmaker. Like it was Guevara came off the rope with a flying nothing and got caught in a Rainmaker. Like there was not like Guevara had some good spots. Like he's a great high spot guy,
yeah,
but like it's difficult for and I was there when he won the TNT title from Miro. Like it was a big deal,
yeah,
and we were on board. And then like he just can't keep himself out of trouble, and it's really disheartening. It's like he's the common denominator in at least two fights, and it's
yeah,
just like I don't know, man. Like where there's smoke, there's fire, and you know what? It's your pants that are on fire. So
yeah.
like you are the problem. So I hope he keeps his nose clean because I really want to root for somebody that talented,
Mm-hmm.
but it's difficult when you know that it's probably just a matter of time before they self sabotage again. It's kind
Right.
of difficult to get invested in a guy like that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like the audience was not. They were so wiped out, man. I felt so bad for them. They tried to be into it, but 4 hours and 13 matches is
Yeah, it
it's
is
a
a lot.
lot, man. Like it's a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing Rampage from now on because this took forever, and I am so sorry.
No, no, it's awesome.
Again, again, folks, this is our first episode. We're still getting used to things. I'm sorry if I
Yeah.
bored you to
We
tears. I
will
tried
be
to make it
tightening our
entertaining.
format a little bit, but I think
We
we're
shall.
we're we're still good
We're
here.
tweaking. We're
Yeah.
tweaking.
Okay. So, all right. It has been a bit of a long pod, but we have finally made it to our main event, what we like to call calling it in the ring. It is a weekly free form segment that we're going to do at the end of every podcast, and we're going to call it right here. So, Adam, why don't you tell the people what we're going to be doing today?
So we decided that since this is our first episode, and we hope to reach a wider audience eventually. If they were to go back into the archives, and start from the beginning with us, if they wanted to, we would like to give everybody kind of an idea of who we are as wrestling fans and kind of what made us that way. So this isn't a comprehensive list of things that shaped our fandom, but we
Mm-hmm.
decided that to kind of distill it into five big moments in our individual lives as wrestling fans
Mm-hmm.
to kind of give you an idea of how we look at wrestling and what's influenced us as fans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know how you want to do this. We're gonna call it in the ring.
All right.
Do you want to alternate maybe?
Yeah, we could alternate.
Okay, you want to go first? You want me to go
Yeah,
first?
I'll go with the first one. I
Sure.
have some date. I have dates for some of mine actually. So,
Ooh, I didn't
yeah,
go that far. I
crazy.
should have, but
Well,
I didn't.
I sat here kind of looked them up while I was doing just to see if I could get dates on some of them, and I can get
Uh,
dates on some of them, so it's perfect.
yeah.
Okay, so my very first. This is actually my number one. I'm going to go in chronological order from one to five, earliest to latest. My number one is November 26th, 1988. I am 5 years old. This is my very first memory of wrestling, and kind of what hooked me into the violent spectacle that was wrestling. I watched the Road Warriors, specifically Animal, use one of his shoulder pad spikes to dig out Dusty Rhodes' eye.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. There was nothing more terrifying than that in the moment. I was 5 years old, so I was obviously
Yeah,
very
for a 5 year
impressionable.
old,
Yeah,
jeez.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting right next to my dad, watching this, holding on to his leg, going, "Oh my gosh, is Dusty Rhodes going to be okay?" And I knew right then I was going to be a fan for life, and that to this day is still my very earliest memory of wrestling.
Wow. Wow. That's like I don't know what my earliest memory of wrestling is. I know a couple of mine is. Like we were talking earlier about one of them.
Mhm.
That's not one of my. What we talked about wasn't one of my formative ones on this list, though. My
Hmm.
first one is WrestleMania 9. Now, I
Ooh.
was a kid. My dad loved wrestling. My mom, to this day, despises it, cannot stand it. The compromise that we had in our household was mom would allow wrestling to be on. She would tolerate it, but not on Sundays. She's a very religious woman. She believes the Sabbath day to be kept holy, and that was the compromise that we came up with. Well, I say we. I didn't have any part in it. I was a
Right.
child. I didn't have any negotiating power, but or leverage or anything like that. But so we didn't watch the pay-per-views as they happened. We relied on my dad's friend from work, Mr. Stock, and he would tape them for us and we would watch them. I remember watching WrestleMania 9 and being so upset at the finish of the show because I was a Bret Hart guy.
Mm.
Big shocker, as you can see. Like,
Yeah.
well, if we ever upload the video, I'm wearing my Hitman shirt right now. Our podcast is called the Smark Foundation Podcast. This should come as no surprise from the off that I'm a huge Bret Hart mark. And he was my guy. And so I was like, oh man, Yokozuna, how is he going to beat Yokozuna? And then, the salt in the eyes, and it's like, oh, that's not fair. But, it's normal stuff. Even for,
Yeah.
you know, uh, this was 1993. So I must have been 8 at the time. And, even then, I knew that like, that's just pro wrestling. But then Hogan comes out and he takes this challenge from Yokozuna, and I'm thinking, what? What's going on? And then he beats Yokozuna, easy, clean as a sheet, easy as you please. You know, super easy, barely an inconvenience, and it was maddening for me. I hated it. I'm like, but he just came in and robbed Brett of his chance to get back what was
Mhm.
stolen from him. That's not fair. That's not what a hero does. No, no. Even at 8 years old, and I know this may come as a surprise to some people because that's kind of a complex thought for an 8-year-old to have, admittedly. But Brett
Mhm.
was my guy, and I knew at that point that that was the fan that I was going to be. I chose my guys, and I was ride or die for them.
Yep.
And that would carry all the way through, even through 1997, which I still believe to be possibly the best year in wrestling, into Bret Hart's heel turn. He only said what was accurate, folks. He told the truth. Okay. Much like Hangman later, Bret was right. Hashtag Bret was right.
Yep.
And that's why it took me as long as it did to get into Steve Austin, because he was the guy that Brett was fighting against. He was the villain. He was the guy who was screwing over Brett over and over again. He robbed him of the Royal Rumble. He did this, he did that. Like, it was maddening to me because I couldn't understand. Like, this is, he's right. Everything he says is right. And like, it carried through to that. And that's always how I've been in my fandom. Like, I don't, you know, I'll cheer heels and faces accordingly, whatever. But if somebody's my guy, I don't care what they've done. I'm rooting for that guy. And that was the formative experience that laid that seed in my brain. It was Bret Hart getting screwed for Hulk Hogan, who I didn't care about.
Oh man, yeah, Hogan. That I hated that. I hated that whole thing.
Yes, oh, it's the worst.
Didn't always hate Hogan, but I did hate that.
Yeah, screw Hulk Hogan now.
Yeah.
You guys are racist POS,
Yeah.
and everybody knows it.
Well, speaking kind of Hulk Hogan a little bit more, my next one is September 4th, 1995. That is the debut of Monday Nitro. And we were a WCW household when I was a kid. That's why my first memory of wrestling is in the NWA. We were a big, like, my dad was big into WCCW. We had the local Amarillo territory, which was home to Terry Funk and Wahoo McDaniel and people like that, and Ted DiBiase and his delinquent son. Both of them
Which
now.
delinquent son?
Oh, okay, so before it was just
He's
Mike.
got a couple
now,
of delinquent
but now it's
sons.
two. Yeah, now it's two delinquent sons. But before it was just Mike. But yeah, so we had great territory here when I was growing up. We had NWA in my house all the time. Saturday nights were NWA night. My dad would come home and not, like, they didn't go out. They would go out on Friday night. My dad would be home Saturday night. We would watch wrestling together. 605, man. Um, so
05.
so yeah, that 05,
that TBS 05.
that TBS 05, man. Yeah. So September 4th, 1995, or Nitro debuts. I had already been watching Raw. Um, I was not actually watching Nitro when it debuted. My dad was watching it, but by this point, I'm 12 years old, or really close to 12 years old. So I've got a cable box and a TV in my room. Um, my dad and I used to get in like classic fights about like what was going to be on the TV in the living room. So my mom was like, we're going to put a TV in his room and we're going to fix this. So we did. So I was watching Raw actually because I was into Raw. That's what I was watching at the time. Um, Not a great period for Raw, but that's what was on. So WCW comes on. My dad's watching that in the living room, and I hear him freak out because Lex Luger showed up. And I'm literally watching Raw, and Lex Luger is on Raw. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so, like, I flip over to Nitro, and from there, I found out that Nitro did a replay at like 11 p.m. And so I became
Which
that
is
kid
something
who
that I
was,
wish that they would do with Dynamite,
oh
for the
God, yes,
record.
yes.
Wouldn't it be great?
So I became that kid that was tired and asleep in class on Tuesdays because I watched Raw live or taped or whatever it was at the time. And then I watched the Nitro replay. Even though Nitro was live, I still watched the Nitro replay because, to TBS's credit, they did not edit or take anything out of Nitro before that replay. They just replayed it. So I got to see everything that was on the live show, whether it was, a curse word or whatever happened to happen. Um, and at 11, 12 years old, that's just amazing, hearing
It
shit on
is.
TV or something like that. So yeah, that my second formative point is the birth of Nitro, because it really showed me that, like, not only is there more wrestling out there, and like WCW is really about to pick it up and like compete with WWE. That's how I felt from the beginning. I not knowing that they would dominate them for 83 weeks, um, and have some of the best storylines, until Russo showed up. Like, I literally, once Russo showed up and started doing his thing with Nitro, I stopped watching Nitro altogether. By that point, WWF was winning and they were
Yeah.
killing, with DX
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So it really wasn't. I really don't feel like I sacrificed too much of missing the really crappy Jeff Jarrett, Vince Russo era of Nitro. I did miss
Yeah, it
some
was
things that
rough.
I would later come to be like, hey, I wish I would have seen that live, like Hogan being like, this is bullshit and this is why this, like that whole stuff. Like, I really wish I'd seen a lot of that, but um, my dad had a friend who ordered all the WCW pay per views, so we'd go over there and watch them. My dad would order all the WWF ones. So I was inundated with wrestling as a teenager to the point where like I actually joined the wrestling team as a freshman in high school, and when I realized that it had like nothing to do with pro wrestling, I stopped. Um, so
Makes
yeah,
me
I
think
was
of the
like
South
desperate
Park
at that.
episode.
I was like desperate at that point to be in the business. It's like, well, maybe if I become an amateur wrestler, it will, help me get to be a pro wrestler. And I stayed wrestling for a little while, but I was like, I really didn't. I was like, this is not the kind of wrestling I want to do. And it actually ended up being a detriment to me later when I joined the business because the way you move as an amateur wrestler versus the way and direction that you have to move as a professional wrestler or referee even is like with amateur wrestling, you move to your dominant side. With professional wrestling, you move left. It's always
Yeah,
left, and I'm not left
yeah,
dominant. So
yeah,
that it
yeah.
actually became when Chris Romero was training me, it became a detriment to me because he had to reteach me how to move, basically. Um, so and that was the beginning of that. But yeah, Nitro coming on really kicked my wrestling fandom into high gear. I didn't care about anything else at that point. Like I had a computer, but my computer was like all my bookmarks were wrestling message boards, and that's where
Yeah.
eFeds came into the picture. And I mean that's how it all started. I mean, I like that you dig out the guy's eye. I keep watching wrestling, and now there's two shows on Monday night, and I'm in heaven.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Yeah. Well, going off what you said, I have the same day as my second one, for a couple of different reasons. Different perspective here. I know they'd had matches like this beforehand, but I didn't, as much of a fan as I was, I didn't see everything. This was, the opening contest of the first Monday Nitro
Mm.
was Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger,
Ah, it was
and
amazing
that
too.
blew my mind
Oh
as
yeah.
as a 10-year old. I'm like, what is this? I've never seen anything like this. It was spectacular. It opened up my eyes to a whole new style. I loved Jushin Liger. I was so fortunate enough to later in life be able to see him live
Oh yeah.
at WrestleCon in New Jersey before WrestleMania 29, and it was in Metuchen, New Jersey. uh, that was the same show that New Jack pulled out Wolverine claws and slashed somebody open.
Oh god.
Uh, I saw the Briscoes lose to the Rock and Roll Express's double dropkick, which was weird. Uh, Vader was the special like general manager for the night. It was a very strange show. Uh, but yeah, like Liger and Pillman were just they opened my eyes to something I'd never seen in wrestling before. Like, I was familiar
Yeah.
with Owen Hart, but he's really watered down his style for WWF, really.
Yeah.
Like he
Pillman
wasn't
was like
wrestling,
a
yeah.
he
It
was
was a
our
revelation.
yeah, he was
Pillman and Liger
revolutionary.
was a revelation to
Yeah.
me. Um so that was one reason. And the other one was also because Lex Luger showed up.
Hmm.
But it we were interested in watching the news show. We weren't actually flipping channels yet because like this was the news show. We wanted to give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that Luger was on the other show. What I did know was that a few days before, I had seen Lex Luger on a WWF house show in Niagara
Oh,
Falls.
whoa.
So I was very surprised to see him at the end of the show.
Right?
And that was the second time that night that my mind was blown. I'm like, what is going? That's a WWF guy.
Yeah.
I
Like he is like
just saw him.
yeah,
Like,
right?
and this was before I knew anything about dirt sheets.
Hmm.
Even if the internet wasn't just in its infancy, then it's not like we had it. So
Yeah.
like, I had no idea of the machinations behind the scenes or anything like that. So my 10-year-old brain just could not process it. I was so excited. I had never seen anything like that first episode before because it was
Yeah.
bookended by two mind melting moments, and it reaffirmed my love of the the anything can happen nature of pro wrestling.
Oh yeah.
I love the surprise elements of it.
Hmm.
Um, I remember, some of my best in person wrestling memories or surprises. There was a time our local indie fed uh, uh, Excite Wrestling, somebody had canceled at the last minute and they got a replacement. And you got to remember, this is before speaking out. So we didn't know about the guy beforehand. Okay.
Yeah.
But as soon as the Pina Colada song hit and Joey Ryan came out, you would swear that it was God himself that walked through those curtains. Everybody was enamored, jumping up and down as if everybody had won a Super Bowl or a Slammy, which I have won. So, like, we'll get to that later. But
All right.
so surprises are huge for me. I love a good surprise, especially nowadays when everything is leaked beforehand and rumors are there. I love being, going back to what earlier said about MVP. I love being legitimately surprised, taken off guard, because we've seen so much. I'm 39 years old and I've been a wrestling fan for literally as long as I can remember. There's a certain arrogance that comes with that. That's like, wow, I've seen it all. You can't really pull the wool over my eyes.
Yeah.
So when it does happen, oh man, is that special?
Oh
It's
yeah.
so special.
That
It's
feeling.
it hits like a drug.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Let's see.
All right,
My
you're up.
next one, I'm trying to decide because I actually have six, and I'm trying to put I'm trying to figure out if three or six is going to go in here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and go with three. So let's fast forward from 1995 to 2004, 2005.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I believe
Uh,
it was 2005.
okay, so about 2005, I find Throwdown Sports Entertainment, and I find this guy in there. Okay,
So
so
I'm gonna cut you off right there, you jerk, because I was gonna do this thing where I was gonna list my five, and then at the very end, I was gonna go back and list the six,
see, this was my
and
six, and I didn't know if I
I
wanted to put
was
it in
gonna
there.
throw it back to this moment.
Okay. So,
I was gonna do it. You jerk! You cut me off.
okay, so in
But go ahead.
2005, I joined an EFED called Throwdown Sports Entertainment, and I'd been in many EFEDs with many characters, and so I came up with this character called Ace Border that I based off of. That's actually the name of the founder of the town that I grew up in. Which I haven't told anybody that. That's a whole new breaking thing right
Huh.
here. Ace Borger is the founder of the hometown that I grew up in, and that's the guy's name.
I
Um,
knew you lived in Borger, but I didn't
yeah,
really. I just thought it was just oh, this is the last name of my hometown. I didn't
yeah.
realize that it was actually kind of the
It
other
was
way
actually
around.
a guy. Yeah, he was like an old
Huh.
school gangster. But and
Cool.
I kind of wanted to base my character off this old school gangster at first, but then kind of took the AJ Styles route because that was the
Yeah.
person that I was given to represent my character.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I
Avatars, baby.
yeah, avatars. So I get into Throwdown Sports Entertainment and I meet this guy who happens to be my other host here, Adam. Um,
Hi guys,
and we
that's me.
have a really great back and forth. Now at the time, if I correct me if I'm wrong, Throwdown
How
Sports
about
Entertainment
it?
hadn't.
Since we're so far removed from the glory days,
Mm,
of e-fetting. How about you explain to somebody who may never have come across what
okay.
exactly that was?
So an eFed was like a message board where we would write very descriptive, basically promos, the way a wrestler would do a promo backstage or a filmed promo in a bar or something like that. We would write these out, scenery and everything, and these would be used to kind of determine the winners of upcoming matches that were booked or book upcoming matches, like in our case.
Yeah.
Um, so and that's just the basics of an e-fed. It gets much more complicated than that, but that's the basics. You write promos and you have matches with each other, and those promos decide kind of who wins the matches. And then somebody comes in and writes the card for the matches, and that's where you get the results. And they're inevitably always late because there's inevitably never enough writers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're in Throwdown Sports Entertainment. I believe at the time they had a world title, but no world champion. And I am a very jump right into the world title scene type of person. And so we are having, I decide for some reason to target this guy, Adam, who uses his
I
real
think it
name
was
in the
just
Fed.
because I think it was just because I was the first one to RP that week.
Maybe,
Honestly, yeah, I
maybe.
think it was just serendipity.
But yeah, so he had RP'd and he had posted his promo, and I came and responded to it with a promo of my own, and we went back and forth for what, a week or so at least.
At least, I mean, it wasn't a full week because we still had the show at
Yeah,
the end that would have been written up by somebody. But I want to say it was at least 3 or 4 days we were
yeah.
going back and forth.
So we
Like
went back
I
and
think the
forth.
chain was like 9 or 10 messages long by the
Yeah,
time
at
it was
least.
done.
And they were
Yeah,
long too. So it was a
yeah,
long thread.
yeah. I'm a
So,
long-winded son of a gun.
anyways, at the end of this thread, I took it upon myself to have my character do the most disrespectful thing that I could think of to do to make sure that this dude hated me for real. I was looking for real hate.
Yeah. Initially,
And
that's what you got.
yeah, and so I wrote my character.
Clearly, I took myself way too seriously back then.
I wrote my character riling up the biggest loogie I could possibly rile up and spitting it into Adam's face. And that became the loogie heard around the world. Every e-fed we went to from then on, that was like like we made sure they knew the history and this is what had happened. But we basically went from this company not having a world champion or competitors for a world championship to being the competitors for the world championship because we had blown everyone away somehow, and then really, like, I am 100% positive I legitimately pissed off no less than 90% of the roster with that very last promo where I spit in Adam's face. Because to be frank with you all, I was new, Adam was not, and everybody loved Adam and still does to this day. And there's a perfectly good reason for all of that. He's a wonderful person, but
Oh.
they hated my fucking guts, man.
They did.
Ooh,
Oh, I feel
so
so bad about it now because I mean it's just you look back on it, it's just an e-fed. Like
it's
we're
just an
playing
event. It's so
characters.
silly, you
It's silly.
know?
It's dumb. It's I mean it was a great hobby, and I
Yes.
I made some great memories. But you're
Mm,
right. Like that was the common thread. Usually when we these e-feds didn't last long.
no,
They never did
no.
because
A couple years tops.
it takes so much work to run one,
Yeah.
guys. Like at one point I was running I was the booker and the head writer. He had to take some personal time and he kind of ghosted everyone. Nobody knew where he was or what happened, and it was right before, pardon me, right before a pay-per-view.
Mhm.
And so somebody had to pick up the pen, and it turned out it was like I had the time. So I think it was during the summer. So I
Yeah.
was in between. I wasn't in school at the time. It was
Mhm.
on summer break. So
Yeah.
it fell to me because I was there mostly, and I had the time and the interest. And let me tell you, those 9 or so months that I ran the thing, it was intense. It
Yeah.
takes a ton of work.
It does.
Like it's why it's it's another reason why I was going to list it as my sixth thing is not just because of the friendship that Aaron and I formed through that, but also it gave me a greater appreciation on some small level, very small level of what the process of booking a company must look like,
Hmm.
must be like. You're balancing egos, you're trying to make things make sense, you're trying to book, make sure people show up
Oh
and do what they're
God.
supposed to do. Like it's an incredible machine with tons of working parts, and you
Hmm.
don't really understand and have. I don't think most people who were in EFEDs as characters had the understanding of how much work goes into it from the creative side. And
Yep.
if it wasn't for that EFED, not only would I have never met Aaron, but I never would have gotten that opportunity to see what it's like from the other side.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, every single, like I said, these things don't generally last long because people burn out. People, sometimes it's not even the guys who write it. Sometimes it's you just don't have enough people role playing wrestlers, and so it's like, well, you can't make a whole show around four guys, like,
Yeah.
so it just drops off.
Hmm.
But every single time one of us wound up in an EFED that was worth anything, we would get a hold of the others. Like, you gotta join me here. We can do
Yeah.
some work here.
Yeah.
We can really do that. And like Aaron said, like we made sure to there was a common thread. Anytime we showed up in a fed together, the history was there. It was made clear that there was that common thread that these two guys are kind of destined to do this together, either as partners or as adversaries.
Hmm.
And we've been both
Oh yeah.
very
And
successfully on
yeah, very successfully
numerous
both.
occasions, actually. Um,
Yep.
Probably the best one. I mean, UWE wasn't the best EFED that we were a part of. I think Rope was the best one.
Yeah, Rope
Ring of
was the
Pride and
best one for
Excellence
sure.
was the best one.
Yeah.
We were tag team champions there. We were in a stable with a great gimmick. Like we were the gimmick of the Fed was that it was a small regional promotion trying to become a national promotion. And
Hmm.
so since we had been world champions in other quote unquote bigger promotions, we came into this really this podunk rinky dink little uh,
Hmm.
uh, regional promotion, graced it with our presence, and we were going to bring it up out of the doldrums, and we were going to take credit for it. So we called ourselves, since we were all former world champions, we called ourselves the World,
The
which
world.
I don't know. I don't know if you can get more arrogant than that. It was perfect.
No.
It was
So
perfect. Um, but UWE was where we had our swan song. It
yep.
was, I was getting tired of the character that I was running and had been running, the one that been running this whole time.
Hmm.
And it's funny too because the booker liked me and he was really ready and willing to push me all the way
Yeah.
up there. You could tell just by the way he booked me in that one battle royal.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even RP because I was so burnt out, and he still like booked my character to run through everybody and was like one of the final three guys. Like he wanted to run with me, but I just at that point the timing was off. But I knew that I wanted to go out on my terms, and luckily we were able to do that. And
Hmm.
Aaron and I were able to craft a storyline that was just like it was honestly it was our magnum opus. It was
Hmm.
I know that sounds real silly because it's fake.
Yeah.
It's even faker wrestling, but like it was really nice to be able to get to put over my best EFED friend in a way that also did justice for my character. I wrote the whole match myself. I wanted to make sure that it was done the way that I wanted to, the way that I felt put Aaron over, and also write my character out as kind of like going out on his horse. So like we've had a real good run. Like
Oh yeah,
we really did. It was fun.
yeah. We had a better run than a lot of people had in
Yeah.
e-feds for sure. Uh, yeah, mostly because we stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mean, I was never like I don't think I was the most talented guy in any EFED that I was ever really part of, but I was the guy who was always there. Like
Yeah,
I was the Tommy Dreamer, you know. I was the
yeah,
guy they
for
stuck
sure.
the belt on because they knew that they could count on me to stick around more than it was a matter of talent. Not that I
Right.
was untalented, but like there were certainly better writers than I was
We had
in
some
most
wicked good
EFEDs that I was in.
writers in some of those
Yeah,
e-feds, man. Some people that I was
yeah,
just like, I'd read their promo and be like, I have a match with this ass, man. Fuck.
yeah. Like
Like, or
anytime I had to go up against Faith, I'm like, oh man,
oh god, I'm losing this one every
yeah.
single time,
Which
man.
is funny because
Faye,
her other character I was undefeated against.
yeah,
Her Alan Marrow character, like
yeah.
it was her joke character, but I was undefeated against him.
Well, that's because he was always in the
Yeah,
shed getting high with Ace.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there is that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was. If you're out there, Steph Deller, hey,
We love you.
hey, we love you. We haven't talked to you in like years and years, but
Years.
hey, hope
Yeah.
you're doing all right.
Yeah. Hope you're good. Her
Um,
and her and Staz.
Staz,
It's
oh, I
Beeson
miss
now, but it used
Staz.
to be Demarca and
Yeah,
Falk, man. I miss
yeah,
Falk a
Falk was
lot.
good. PE still shows up on Twitter occasionally. I
Mm,
follow him on Twitter, but he doesn't post often. But he was a good dude. I liked. You can have a real intellectual conversation with that guy. He
yeah.
was he was he was a good guy.
Yeah, he was.
Um. So yeah, that was your official number three,
Yep.
and my unofficial whatever. But my official number three, um, it's the pipe bomb.
All
Like, I
right.
mean, I know that there's like a huge gap in chronology there, but let's be real here. The mid 2000s were not great.
No, not for
Like,
wrestling. That's why we spend most of our time in e-fits.
yeah, no kidding, right? But I remember where I was when CM Punk caught that pipe bomb, and
Mm,
I was sitting with my roommate. We were watching Raw, and we had some friends over to watch, and all of our jaws dropped. We could not believe what we were hearing. It was insane for us to think that any kind of backstage kind of things would be referenced on TV. And it was brilliant too, because like if you go back and watch that, he's still selling the match. He's
yeah.
blending reality with the fiction so well, so masterfully, and it's really it's a master class of a promo by somebody who was just ticked off and didn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
Like, but he still had a job to do, and he did it. But like it was, I remember the next day, and it was being covered by mainstream media outlets, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
you really felt and this was later determined to obviously not be the case because WWE drops the ball with anything good. But it felt in that moment like, oh man, wrestling's gonna be cool again.
Yeah.
Wrestling's gonna be good again. Like it was so energizing. It made me want to tell everybody about wrestling again when wrestling hadn't been cool for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like really like as soon as WrestleMania X7 ended, it's like, nope, wrestling wrestling's in the bin again. Like
Yeah.
but for that brief moment I felt the winds changing. It's like, yeah, I can be energetic about this again. I can really get into this. Like I never stopped watching, but I was like, I didn't have a guy since really like Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Like and then Punk became my guy again. So it was like, oh yeah, and then Danielson would become my guy,
Yeah.
later. But in that moment, it was like it was exciting, and it was the first time I'd been super excited for a long, long time. I would be so let down because the summer of Punk was not good.
No.
But we went. I remember, we went to Night of Champions in Buffalo. Not long after that, it was the one right after SummerSlam, I think, and it was stupid Kevin Nash and like
Oh, Kevin
petty
Nash.
Triple H coming out of semi-retirement just to beat CM Punk and then disappear into nothingness. Nope.
Yep.
It was. It remains a moment that I was. It reminds me. It served as a reminder that to take stock of and cherish those great moments because they're often fleeting in wrestling
Yep.
because so often the lightning doesn't stay in the bottle for
No.
very long.
Oh, bad. Yeah, the pipe bomb. Yeah, that made me a CM Punk fan for life. I'll never stop being a fan of his, even if he's an asshole. So,
Yeah. No, I feel you. I don't begrudge anybody. I've changed my attitude on him, but I don't begrudge anybody for their fandom doing it unless they're a fan of a scumbag because they're a scumbag.
right,
You know,
right, yeah,
like I like Hulk Hogan because he's racist. Like that'll okay.
yeah. That's too much.
No,
Yeah, like no.
no. I will judge you for that
Right.
because I should judge you for that.
All right. Okay. So last two. My next one is one that might also be on your list, but WrestleMania 25 week, man. That thing, yeah. I mean, come on, it is life changing for me. I'm sure it was for you also. Um, my very first WrestleMania, my very first stadium show for WWE. The very first time I ever felt like I was truly among my people for like a whole week, man, and there was nothing like it. Like, from thousands of fans scattered everywhere at the fan experience stuff for WWE to the ROH show and the after party where we're in the middle of a couple thousand fans and then we're in the middle of all the
Yeah.
wrestlers and then actually getting to spend time with these wrestlers who have no idea who we are or why we're even in the
Yeah.
building with
Uh-huh.
them. um,
No, we
and
just
then
follow them.
to being in Reliance Stadium with 90,000 or so other wrestling fans just feeding off of that energy. Just I mean, literally feeding off the energy so hard, I almost got into a fight with a guy that was cosplaying as the Undertaker. Because I was rooting for Shawn Michaels during the Undertaker match. He was like, "Why are you a grown man wearing a John Cena t-shirt?" And I was like, "You're literally cosplaying as the Undertaker." Like, so, but I mean, but
Oh,
beyond that one little skiff, like
yeah.
everything super cool. Just that week was it literally was life changing in my world of wrestling. It was just I didn't know it could be like that, and then it was.
Yeah, I mean it was really that was my first WrestleMania too. And uh it was really, really cool. It helped solidify our friendship
Oh
because we
yeah, for
actually met in
sure.
person for the first time.
Yeah, yeah, we met in person for
We
the very
spent
first
like the
time.
whole spent the whole week together. Uh Houston, I love Houston, even though it takes an hour to get anywhere with that
The
weird
loop.
highway that goes all the way around the city and the huge federal prison right in the center of town. Like it was like there's nothing like that in New York. I can tell you.
Right.
um, but no, that was absolutely a formative experience. But I had only five.
Okay.
So it's not on my list. It is very
Ooh.
important. I don't want to discount that, and I don't want you to feel offended.
Oh no, I'm not.
But my number four was the night after WrestleMania 29. We'd gone to, that was my third WrestleMania. Houston was great, but really that's kind of a one match show. Like,
Mhm.
and granted, it's one of the best matches of all time,
All time.
but it's
Yeah.
really kind of a one match show. And you and I got tickets separately, so we didn't even sit with each other.
Right.
And I was sitting at that show with somebody who I would later find out is a very bad person. So I will not say what he did on air, but needless to say, I do not associate with him anymore.
Oh.
Uh, and then I went again 2 years later to 27 in Atlanta, and while I love Atlanta, the city, um, that show is butt. Like it's butt. Like the
Yeah.
best match on the card is CM Punk versus Randy Orton, and it's just kind of okay.
Yeah.
Like the one that people really remember from that is in a good way, is the no holds barred match between the Undertaker and Triple H. But let me tell you, watching that live, like I don't know what it was like for people watching at home in the moment, but watching it live, it was just like, okay, they're breaking through something. Okay, now they're going to take a big show nap for 5 minutes. Okay, now you're going to break through something else. Okay, like it was just so slow and plotting. The Hell
Mhm.
in the Cell match they had the next year was so superior. It's not even close. It's not even close. I
Yeah.
wish I'd gotten to see that match in person.
Oh,
But like, 27 was special for me because uh, I was sitting with that same person. It was much later that I found out about him, but I was sitting with that same person, and um, the camera person came up because we were like first row elevated, but we were like kind of all the way back,
yeah.
like kind of in a corner. But there were the camera people, kind of mm, kind of patrolling the ringside area, the floor seats. But they saw us and like, hey, you want to be on TV? We're like, yeah, sure. It's like, okay, we need you to react really, really big, or they're not going to find the footage worthy enough to put on TV. So, we're going overboard. You know what match that they asked us to do that for?
Huh.
Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole.
Oh man,
So for
that
like
was such a shit show.
20 minutes, which was about 18 minutes longer than it needed to be, we're overreacting and trying to sell that we actually are enjoying what we're seeing. And then they don't use the footage on the broadcast, but they repurpose the footage in several video packages for other things. Like I'm on a Randy Orton DVD. I was in separate hype packages for John Morrison and Evan Bourne were coming back from injury. Like it was like is super weird. Like so 29, so 25 as a WrestleMania, despite the one match, kind of a mid show. 27 is a bottom tier WrestleMania, and 29 ain't much better. So we went to 29, which is a little closer to home because it was in New Jersey, which is only about 3 hours from where I live. And um, it was just like that whole show, with the exception of Undertaker versus Punk, which is great. Everything was like, ugh. And it was cold and it was rainy and outdoors. Like it was just, ugh. So with all that said, it's like, ugh, do I really want to come to another WrestleMania? And then we went to Raw the next night. The Raw that made the Raw after WrestleMania famous. That was when the crowd hijacked everything. We weren't having fun, so we made our own fun. And all the credit goes to the European fans who came in from across the pond. They have that mentality kind of baked into their DNA. If they're not having fun, they're going to make their own. So there were
Mhm.
beach balls and chants and everything. The they that was when Fandango became a thing for a hot sec. People like, we want later on in the year at the Slammy Awards, we would that crowd would win a Slammy for their participation in that show. So I am a Slammy Award winner. Still waiting on the trophy for the record, but I think it got lost in the mail. But it was that show, that Raw after, that turned me because they were talking about going again to 31, and I was like, oh, the last three have been, mid at best. And then this Raw happened. I'm like, yes, I'm definitely going again. Like it turned me around because, my fandom was kind of like, I liked it, but it was like, it was kind of hitting a nadir because it was like, this is the biggest show of the year and they can't even like get it right. Like I paid so much for these seats, I came in all this way, blah 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 blah. So the Raw after WrestleMania showed me that it doesn't matter what show it is. You can make your own fun and you can find your fun from whatever you want, from whatever is placed in front of you. You can find something to enjoy, which is a very helpful outlook to have because a lot of wrestling is not great. There's a lot of wrestling that is great. There's a lot of wrestling that's not great, but you don't know what you're going to get until it's in front of you. So if you go into it with a positive attitude, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do this. We're gonna make the most of this. We're gonna get our money's worth. We're gonna have a good time. It was that really that changed my mind on how I approach being an audience member. It's like
Yeah.
there's only so much that the performers are responsible for. At the end of the day, I have fun because I want to, not
Mhm.
because of anything else. And that's what that Raw after WrestleMania taught me. It's like, you, you, you don't have to be at the mercy of bad booking. Yeah, just make your own fun. Hopefully, other people will join in.
Yep.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if you go into that with a positive attitude, you're more than likely not going to leave too dissatisfied.
Well, kind of playing off that, I'll segue into my number one. So you're talking about, cementing, as a fan. Um, so I'll kind of gloss over the fact that I joined the wrestling business um, around that 2009, 2010 mark. Shortly after I got married, I started training to initially to be a wrestler. But I have a effed up neck. So that didn't really work out.
Yeah,
However, they did train me to be a referee. So I have since 2010 or so been a full time referee for several promotions, most notably the National Wrestling Alliance. And so let's skip over to about 2012 or 2013. Yeah, it'd be about 2013. Um, Now, somebody I'm sure will correct me on the dates here, but this is as best as I can remember the date. Um, Rob Conway is the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion. I work for the main Texas National Wrestling Alliance territory here in Amarillo. I am also at the time the most senior referee in the building. Um, so Rob Conway comes to our NWA territory as contractually obligated by the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion, and I get to referee his match.
that's pretty cool.
So I've refereed. This is actually my second National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Title match that I've refereed. I refereed uh, Cahagas when he was the champion before Conway. But this one's way more important because this time I know that I am going to be the referee for this match. I know way ahead of time. We book Rob
Mm.
Conway. They tell me almost immediately, hey, you're going to have that one. It's you. The Tokyo Monster Kahagas match was a surprise because he showed up to wrestle, and I'm the only referee who showed up that night.
Oh, oh no.
So I refereed the entire show, including his knockdown, drag out, like 45-minute around the arena brawl with this guy named Benny Benitez, who is legitimately the toughest person I've ever met in wrestling. Like if you see him, you're like, oh, that's just a fat dude, a fat Mexican dude. No, no. I have seen Benny Benitez legitimately beat people up for real behind the building and legitimately beat them up for real in the ring. He is probably one of the most dynamic performers I've ever met in my life. He is no longer a wrestler, and that's very sad. But my very first NWA World Heavyweight title match was him and Cahagas, and they are both monsters, about equal size, and it was 45-minute hellscape, dude. It was nasty. The reason that Rob Conway is more important is it's not because I knew that I was going to be the referee. It is because for the first time, and to date the only time, my dad was sitting in the crowd and watched me referee a National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship match. And to overstate how important the 10 pounds of gold is to my dad is impossible. I grew up my entire life. My dad loved Kerry Von Erich and Ric Flair and Terry Funk and pretty much any name you can think of that ever crossed paths through the Amarillo territory and held the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship. I'm going to get a little bit emotional here, but having my dad in the building, watching me referee a match for a belt that was more important to our family than pretty much any other glorified prop in wrestling, to be honest with you, was probably the best wrestling moment of my life. I felt really proud that I had reached that level and that he could see it. Because I thought by the time that I was refereeing matches like that, I would be doing it in like St. Louis or Dallas or Houston, and there would just be no way he could be there. But to have it happen in my hometown and have him be there was, to put it plainly, at the time I wasn't watching wrestling a lot. And until CM Punk came back to AEW, I didn't really fully get into wrestling again. Literally from WrestleMania 25, where we were there together, and that feeling, to CM Punk joining AEW, I was really hit or miss on wrestling. I would watch WrestleMania and Royal Rumble every year. And usually WrestleMania, and as you've talked about, the 27, 29, like stuff like that would be like, I don't even want to watch again until the Rumble. Like, this is booty, you know? So,
Yeah.
so my whole world of wrestling was in the NWA and being backstage. And I eventually, became a booker for that company. I really spread my wings out in that company. But even after, taking the book and doing other things there, having my dad there for that match was probably my number one thing, but it also renewed my love for the sport, just to see how proud he was and how much he still loved what I grew up on, and how just how proud he was. My dad has always been the one to tell me he's proud of me, and from the time I left for the military until that day, there wasn't a whole lot of that because I didn't have a lot of accomplishment. So refereeing that match was huge for me and huge for him, and to this day, probably one of his proudest moments of me, and to this day, my number one moment in wrestling. Just looking out the ring, holding that championship in my hand and circling with it to show everybody, and do the whole presentation thing, and just looking out and seeing my dad, who doesn't smile, smiling as big as he could. That's probably always going to be number one.
See, now you're gonna make me cry
I'm
because
trying not to, man.
I'm a huge softie. Like I can feel them welling up right now. I'm
Yeah.
very open about that too. I guarantee you that's not the first time on a podcast that we create that we do together. As this is not the first time this is going to happen, or this is the first time. It's
This
not the
isn't the
last time.
last time it's going to happen.
It is not the
Yeah,
last time. Yeah.
for sure.
Oh no, I cried like 10 minutes ago. You just didn't see. No. Uh, no, no. I'm a very very open about my emotionality, if you want to call it that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is. My level of emotional display, and I encourage others to be that way because it's healthy. It's healthy, and especially in this fandom, which can be so toxic.
Oh, you're
It
not lying.
is all. It's all the healthier to embrace that
Mm.
because you know we Aaron and I try to be open minded and uh, progressive and be better than all of those guys that make women choose the bear. Uh, we
Word.
try really hard and we're proud of that. And part of that comes with accepting our emotions. Uh, so yeah, cry, baby. Do it.
Yeah.
I welcome it. I welcome it so much because I am a big old crybaby myself. So always good to have company in that camp.
Right. Right.
Um, so my I wish that my last one could match that level of wholesomeness. Unfortunately, it is much more the opposite. The last one, because these are formative moments. These are not necessarily inherently good or bad. They're just formative.
Right.
So the last one, I don't remember the exact date because I didn't do my research like you did, but I remember it happening, and it's the reason why I haven't been a regular watcher of WWE programming in about 4.5 years.
I've been so wanting to get into this. I'm ready to hear this. Like I have been stoked to hear this whole time. I've been like, he is still not explained why he's not a WWE fan anymore. Here we go. All right, here, hit
So
me with it.
I want to preface this by saying that, um, by reiterating to you, because I know that you know who I am and you know that what I'm going to say is true. But for our listeners, I want to establish that just because I only watch AEW and consider myself in general a pro wrestling fan, but majorly an AEW fan specifically, that doesn't mean that I don't recognize talent in WWE. Doesn't mean I don't support the talent in WWE. It doesn't mean that I am one of these tribal jerks who wants WWE to fail at every opportunity. I'm not that guy. I am pro AEW. I am not anti WWE. And I
Word.
want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
Now that that's established, the reason that I don't watch WWE programming on the regular, I do catch the Royal Rumble because it's the Royal
It's the
Rumble.
Royal Rumble,
It's the Royal
right?
Rumble.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah,
It
it is.
is the
It really
best.
is the
It's
best
better than
gimmick match.
WrestleMania.
Oh, by
It's better
far.
than
It's my
WrestleMania.
favorite pay per view of the year across
It's
all
the best.
companies.
It's literally the best gimmick match of all time.
Oh, yeah,
And
it
there's
is. It is.
nothing that even comes close.
And this is coming from a guy who really
No,
loves war games. I'm
yeah,
still a bigger fan of the Royal Rumble.
yeah. But I remember in 2020 when the world shut down and, COVID hit our shores around March or so, right before WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And there were lots of questions in the air, and WrestleMania was weird that year.
Was that the two
Super
night year that
weird.
they had like Gronk
That's the
as the
first.
host?
That's the first two night. No, it's not the first two night. It's but it's the one that's in the performance center.
Yeah, where Gronk was the host, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
was super weird. I
it
didn't like
was
it at
weird,
all. Yeah.
super weird. Didn't really like it. Wrestling without fans is dumb.
Yeah, it
Like
sure is,
it's
man.
straight up dumb.
COVID
This
was
is a
bad times.
this is an art form that requires participation
Hmm.
from an audience. It doesn't benefit from it. It requires
Yeah,
an
must
audience.
be done.
With the exception of those like cinematic matches, like the Boneyard match, great.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic, right?
uh, the fire, the Funhouse match, the one with Cena,
Oh, yeah,
great,
really good.
fantastic. Two completely different styles of cinematic match too, and they're
Yeah,
both fantastic. The
yeah,
best thing on that WrestleMania card was the one that didn't need audience.
right, right.
Um, but it was shortly after that. I can't remember the date, but I think it was sometime in April. Things were shutting down. Uh, People were worried about their job security. I work. I'm an essential worker, so I was never worried about mine or Tracy's well-being. But lots of people were. I've known people who had to lose their jobs during it. It sucked on their behalf. I couldn't do anything to really alleviate those troubles. I wasn't in a position to, but it was on my mind. So when Ron DeSantis, his politics aside, um, made some whatever decree it was, the executive order that professional wrestling would be covered under essential businesses, I thought it was silly because it's pro wrestling. It's not essential. You
Mm.
are not a medical worker. You're not working at a gas station where people need to gas up. You're not working in a grocery store. You're not any of these essential businesses. That
No,
said, I was happy that at least in Florida, where both major companies were based, really, like I mean,
yeah,
technically Stanford existed, but the performance center was in Orlando.
yeah,
So like they could run shows out of Orlando for the no audience that they have.
right.
But in Florida, at least these people were going to have job security. They could still perform and they could still provide for their families.
Mm.
And then 2 days later, WWE lets go of 80 people.
I remember that.
And it was appalling.
It was.
Like, I know some of them were furloughed and got their jobs back. I know some of them got released and got their jobs back eventually. But the majority of them were probably people who they were just trimming the fat. They didn't have anything for them in creative. But just the idea of them getting that news that, oh, thank God, at least we can be here in Florida and we can still do this. And then for the company to turn around and be so heartless as to
Yeah,
let those people go, I couldn't believe it. And honestly, it just, I know that, that kind of pales in comparison to some of the other mm, do, dubious moral decisions that
yeah.
have been made by that company. Saudi Arabia comes to mind.
Oh man.
All the stuff that you can find in a lawsuit that's currently going on, and a
Yeah.
Netflix series that's on the air right
Yeah.
now.
That we
You
will
know,
not bear repeating here for the lawsuit in case anybody know in case everybody who knows about the lawsuit knows about the lawsuit. We will not repeat that here. That shit is horrifying.
yeah,
So,
it's awful. I'm not going to.
yeah,
It's
not doing
horrifying to read. It's physically upsetting.
it. It is. It was. It
It's
really made
it.
me sick to my stomach,
I
legitimately.
wanted to puke.
Yeah,
I wanted to puke. I wanted to cry.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. I definitely
Um,
did.
but so maybe this pales in comparison to all that other stuff. But at that point, I just couldn't believe how heartless they could be to those people. And then in conjunction with all those other things that added up, I couldn't justify it anymore to myself. I don't hold anybody else to the same standard. I don't hold anybody in contempt for keeping up their fandom, keep continuing to support the company or whatever, especially with the regime change that happened not that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, I couldn't justify it for me.
Mhm.
And then, I tried, I watched the Royal Rumble because I always do. And then I tried watching, uh, I tried going back to it and it was just the same garbage, like the same people feuding from a year ago. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is even the point of this? And so I just threw all my eggs in the AEW basket. And eventually I had my second child. Tracy
Okay.
had our daughter Evelyn. And now I definitely don't have time to watch two promotions.
Right. Right.
But that was the straw that broke the camel's back, was them letting go so callously right after those people had had such must have had such relief
Yeah.
for the thought that they would still be able to work, and then for their employer to say, no, you know what, f off.
Yeah.
Like, no, I couldn't justify any longer supporting that company. Now that could change if I wind up with more free time. Vince is gone. Depending on depending on how the lawsuit goes, we could see a lot of changes.
Yeah, we
But
could. We really could.
because the company itself is listed as a defendant, and that
Yeah.
culture still remains in certain cases. Like that,
Yeah.
just because you cut the head off the snake doesn't mean the body ain't still wriggling.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, that was. I'm sorry to end on a downer. That my
Yeah.
original plan was to circle back around and talk about our EFED time together, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to talk about formative um, moments in my fandom, that's the most recent one, and it's
Yeah.
it's big. Like,
Yeah.
it's
That
important.
is big. Yeah, I'll tell you this right now, man. If Vince was still in charge in WWE, this would be an AEW podcast.
Yeah,
Period. I feel the
yeah,
same way you do about the guy. As far as like I'm sorry, man. I'm not gonna give this man credit for what he built. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna give him the time of day as far as any of that goes. What's happening now is a completely different animal than what he built. It really is.
yeah.
Yeah, he might have built that fan base up to a certain point, but what they are doing now is basically everything he wouldn't let them do before, and they're succeeding.
Well, they let
So
go of Kevin Dunn, which was half the battle.
yeah, that was half the problem anyway. As far as production go, their production is fantastic now, by the way. But
Oh, I've seen clips and stuff like that. Just because I don't watch the shows doesn't mean I don't keep up with stuff.
right,
Like, I am chronically on Twitter.
yeah, and
So,
Twitter
like,
will show you.
I see the clips of the good stuff and some of the bad stuff too, but mostly
Yeah,
the good stuff.
yeah. So yeah. Like I said, if Vince was in charge, this would be an AEW podcast, and I would have absolutely zero problem with that. I think that um, watching it now, I mean, it's kind of one of the reasons why in my analysis I just went over like the big main storylines that are going on, because honestly, the WWE product now is a storyline driven thing where the matches almost don't matter until you get to a PLE, and so
And
I
then
mean
they
I find
usually
my
deliver.
yeah, and
But
they deliver, yeah, but I usually
yeah.
find myself like like there was a match with Meechin and Piper Niven. I'm a
Hmm.
fan of both of them, so I
Yeah.
watched the match. But as far as like the grand scheme of what's going on in WWE storylines, everything, it was inconsequential.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a storyline behind it, but it is so kind of low on the shuffle that they don't. It's not like something they're keeping forefront of
And
your
that's
mind.
and that's not to say that wrestling for the sake of wrestling is bad
No,
either.
it's
Like
not. It's not.
it,
That was a
it
great
can be
match.
a random match can be important for the sake of just establishing somebody is getting a win
Hmm.
and building momentum towards something bigger. I
Yeah,
mean, it can be as simple as that. It
yeah. In
doesn't
this
need
case,
to
it
be
is.
serving a greater narrative or
Right.
whatever.
In this case, it was Meechin building some kind of momentum leading into another match with Chelsea Green, I believe.
Yeah, they
They're
have a
having like
dumpster match
they're having a
coming soon,
dumpster
right?
match.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
That is.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard about that.
So that's happening, but like as far as like the match itself went, like it was a good match, but like as far as like the grand scheme of how the show was going and what they were trying to, push to the forefront of the show, it was kind of in the in the back shuffle. So WWE, the matches are good. They're getting better. Like you could definitely tell that they understand that AEW is where the best wrestle, and
Yeah,
so they're kind of giving people freedom to wrestle. Things Vince, like I said, things Vince would not let them do before.
yeah.
That like white gear is starting to become a thing again. Like Vince had a big thing where you can't do white gear. Like so there was a lot of changes. I think mostly for the better. But yeah, I mean it's some of the things they do are inexcusable. There's still things I won't participate in at all that we will not cover on this show. Like I'm not going to watch the Saudi Arabia show and I'm not going to cover it here.
No,
Um, because I have a moral difference with Saudi Arabia, period.
yeah,
Um, I
yeah.
won't,
I'm the same way.
yeah,
I hate that they're basically just serving as a propaganda wing for them.
yeah,
It sucks.
yeah, it sucks really bad. So that's that. Yeah, among other things, that's something I won't be covering. Um, I won't cover NXT just because I don't have time to watch it, even though I hear it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard
Uh,
really good things
yeah,
about
I've heard
since Sean took over.
yeah, I've heard really great things, but I don't have time.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean we're kind of both in the same boat as far as we have kids, we have certain amount of time we can watch stuff, but um, I do I do see that WWE is on this kind of recovery road. Whether that gets completely stifled by how this lawsuit shakes out or pending federal charges shake out, because I mean
yeah,
that's going to happen first. So I
yeah.
mean
Yeah, that'll definitely happen first.
yeah, I'm kind of just in the same place as everybody else is where I'm waiting, to kind of see how that all shakes out before I can really just be like,
Yeah,
all right, I'm
hold,
really fully back into the product.
yeah,
But
holding pattern.
yeah,
Yeah,
holding pattern basically.
yeah,
But yeah, man, um, I think that's it for us for today, and I we're gonna tighten this up a little bit in the future, folks. But I had a lot of fun here tonight, so we'll definitely be back
yeah.
next week.
This is great. I can't wait to do it again.
Oh hell
But
yeah!